because everything was dusty and dirty, and just went off on the state of downtown, and it was kind of like the last sentence, and there's dead flies in the window. And Concrete decided to make lemonade out of that lemon, and created the Dead Fly Festival. And yeah, for many years, for about 3 years, until they got those windows cleaned up, apparently, they had a Dead Fly Festival. So they would parade downtown with their flies in their little coffins, and I've really kind of had fun with that. So I think that's creativity and innovation on Main Street. Denny.
And when they had the parade, they made the guy that wrote the letter the Grand Marshal.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yeah, no anonymous letters to the editor there, so everybody knew who went off on them. So it's my pleasure to be part of the final panel for today. I'm Sheri Stuart. I coordinate the statewide downtown revitalization program, Oregon Main Street. And we have been in business since the legislature restarted us in 2007, took on our first towns in 2008. In just a very short amount of time, we've grown our network to over 90 communities that participate in the Main Street program. We have about half of those that are on our Main Street pathway, and then the rest of the communities are affiliates that are interested in downtown revitalization, but not really interested in starting a Main Street program at this time. I'm super proud of what our communities have accomplished. Beginning in 2010, we began tracking data from our top tier communities. And since 2010, in just our top 2-tier communities, we've had over $75 million of private sector reinvestment in our communities. That's representing, for the first year, that was just 6 communities. Beginning in 2011, we had moved it up to about 16 that we were tracking data. We've had over $91 million of public sector reinvestment, over 1,000 building rehab projects completed, over 650 net new businesses open on our Main Street districts. And given we were restarted at the start of the economic downturn, so we weren't expecting year over year positive increases in reinvestment or in job creation or in businesses. And we've seen close to 2,700 net new jobs created in our Main Street districts, and the vast majority of our communities are small towns spread across Oregon. So I'm very proud of what our communities have accomplished, and I'm especially proud of our panelists today. We have some of our new communities. Alan from the Friends of Old Town Stayton is here. Here's the chair of the program. They just got started relatively recently, but they have really been motivated and have moving really fast with their downtown revitalization and have some significant achievements under their belts already. So I'm pleased that he was able to be. Kelly is with the Dayton Community Development Association. It's a little town that has been able to leverage every resource that they have learned about and put that to practice in their small town, and have literally transformed their downtown district since 2009, whenever I first met you and had a tour of downtown Dayton. It's really amazing what this small town has accomplished. Mike is with the Newberg Downtown Coalition and has really taken a partnership approach to their downtown revitalization. Newberg has transformed itself as well in a very short amount of time, and it's really amazing. I was just through recently on a weekend on my own time, on pleasure time, and was so happy to see the vibrancy and all that has taken place. And then our lovely little Independence. Shawn is with the City of Independence. They're one of our entry-level communities as well, but is working on downtown revitalization efforts for a number of years. And Shawn, we just appreciate you so much. You know, we have some really awesome support from our Main Street cities for our Main Street efforts, but Shawn really goes above and beyond, and the City of Independence in their partnership and their support of downtown revitalization efforts. You're going to want to package him up and take him home with you. So, so I'm so proud of what they've all accomplished, and I thank you all for being here today as part of this panel. So, Alan, we'll get you started.
All right, let's see if I can be coordinated enough to make all this work at the same time. So, again, my name is Alan Meyer, and I'm the chair of Friends of Old Town State, and I also work for Pacific Power. I cover basically the east side of I-5 in the valley, so cities from Almsville, Stayton, Sublimity, up through the canyon, Gates Mill City, and down to Sweet Home in Lebanon and Brownsville. So, this is our new logo, by the way. Just had developed pretty recently, so we're pretty proud of that. And a little bit about Stayton is we're really in a great location. And we're at the confluence of the Santiam Canyon and the Willamette Valley, about 14 miles east from our state capital, along Highway 22. So the population is approximately 8,000 folks, and thousands upon thousands of cars pass by us every day, and I live close to Highway 22, so on the weekends I can hear it. It's constant. So we have a really good location from the perspective of getting people into our city. And Stayton has a lot to offer. Great public and private schools, some really cool restaurants, boutique shops, an awesome movie theater, by the way, the Star Cinema, where you can actually catch a first-run movie for about half the price of a Regal show, and the popcorn's better and about half the price as well. And not to mention incredible outdoor recreation opportunities. So since we weren't in the handout today, our picture of Stayton, I brought several pictures of Stayton to share with you. So, but our downtown, it needs help. Stayton isn't unique, as many of our new businesses have moved to the outskirts of town, and our downtown has been a bit neglected as a result and needs to be spruced up a bit. So we are a group of community members, business owners, and city staff that are currently focusing on the revitalization of 3rd Avenue, and through the Main Street process, you kind of have to pick a small area you want to start with, and 3rd Avenue is basically the core of our downtown area. And I think, we have the right people involved. So certainly, we have folks that are motivated at the city level, at the community level, and at the business level to make things happen in Stayton. And I feel like, even though at times I can get impatient, that we're actually making some progress. So I know it takes some time. FOTS got started as a result of Stayton residents attending an Oregon Main Street conference and seeing the tremendous benefits that this program has brought to other communities in Oregon, and realizing that what it could do for Stayton. And compared to these folks, I look at us as kind of a toddler, and a toddler that sometimes misbehaves. And I know some of the folks who are from Stayton know exactly what I'm talking about. But we're growing, and we're healthy, and we're doing good. Friends of Old Town Stayton was formed towards the end of 2015, and we really didn't get up and rolling until the middle of 2016. And we first focused on bylaws, goals, our structure. And we got to thank Sheri and the Oregon Main Street, program for really helping us out. And I think because we're only about 15 miles away from Sheri's office, that makes it an easy commute for her to come visit us from time to time. So we got rolling in the spring of 2016, and we have several accomplishments. And I'll have to admit that, we've used somewhat of the formal process, but then again, we use somewhat of the informal process. When we see an opportunity, sometimes we'll just go with it, and you can kind of see here some of the events that we've had, including we are now actually officially a 501c3, and several funding opportunities for us were downtown flower baskets, Hearts Downtown, a chalk art event, more, and we helped one of our historic buildings that was in desperate need of help receive a grant to improve its exterior. So that's underway right now. I mean, we also recognize the benefit in communication, and probably over-communication. I would say at first I just thought if people want to know, they'll come to us, and then quickly realized that we better be outward-facing and try to communicate the best we can. So we had a big community meeting in September, and Sheri was our guest speaker. And we also have quarterly meetings with all committee members. And our first guest speaker was Allison with Grow EDC, who brought us up to speed on the eclipse in August. And okay, another plug for Stayton. If you see where Stayton is on the map, that's the center line of the path of totality. So Stayton is an awesome place to watch the eclipse. So just FYI, if you want to get the maximum experience in the valley, Stayton's a good place to watch the eclipse. So, and really we're kind of putting together big plans for the eclipse weekend, but ultimately what we're trying to do is make sure we don't compete with our businesses and allow them to maximize the benefit of having the potential thousands of people that we'll have in Stayton over that weekend. And I got to throw a plug in for my hometown too, Washington, Missouri. It was kind of funny when I was sitting through the first Main Street conference with Sheri, where she mentioned one of the towns that really exemplifies what can be done through the Main Street process, and she mentioned Washington, Missouri, which is where I was born and where I graduated high school. And actually, it is amazing because we go back and it is nothing like the town with the downtown that was completely falling apart, seemed like a ghost town. And now that I see what basically is possible in my hometown, I can kind of take that and apply that to Stayton. And I think we have big things for Stayton. So in closing, through the downtown revitalization process through Main Street approach, anything can be accomplished anywhere. And while there will always be folks who are change adverse, as we gently roll forward more and more, and our citizens, business owners, representatives, city staff focus on this effort as we move forward and focus on the process, we're starting to see some pretty good results. And as we shift into second gear, basically, so we've been, like I said, we're kind of a toddler, we're moving kind of slowly, but as we shift into second gear, I'm really excited to see about the future of Old Town Stayton. So I think there's big things on the horizon, and it feels pretty good right now.
City. I'm Kelly Haverkate. I'm the program manager for Downtown Dayton, or the Dayton Community Development Association. I love to share our story because it's a story of a group of really dedicated volunteers, and including myself as the program manager. We've been at it now since Sheri started about 2009, and have been working hard, and we have a lot of little steps to show for it. I thought about today and what you guys might want to hear, and so I'll speak right now maybe to the small towns who, and give you some ideas of things that we've done that have been easy and inexpensive and have made a big impact in our community. In case, well, I'm hoping that's why you're here, to learn about what others have done. Becky, you talked about gathering your crowd, building communications, connections, and taking small steps, and that resonates. I mean, it's what we've done, and of course, you didn't talk kindly of community meetings, but I tell you, we started with those so that we could tell people who we were and build some trust, and that was really important. And I think it's shown that over the years that we've built connections with a lot of the farmers in our area, with the businesses in our area, with our city staff and council, and that has made a huge difference for what we've been able to accomplish. We did start simply with a small group, dedicated group. We saw the value in the Main Street approach, and it coincidentally started up about the time we did. So we decided that if we were going to do this, we wanted to do it well, and figured that the Main Street approach was how we wanted to approach the revitalization of our town. Hope you can see that. Well, Dayton, you might all know where it is because it's not that far away, but if you haven't been there lately, please come through. We realize we're in a really big tourism growing area, right in the middle of a whole lot of wine country. And so, to be able to redevelop it and do it in the right manner was really important to us. We started out by asking for some funding from our city and from our county with our economic development folks in the county. This was early on when all you had to do was go and write a letter and ask them. Now it's a little more project-based, which is fine. But so they helped us out by giving us maybe $3,000 total, which gave us enough to pay for some insurance and some seed money for some small projects. And so now I brought you just some before and after photos, just because people like that stuff. This was our very first project, I think, and it was with Oregon Main Street and State Historic Preservation Office. They came to town. I believe we were their pilot project for their design facade improvement program. And so we spent a couple days talking to business owners, talking to property owners, and SHPO and their architects came back with some design charrettes that we were able to show the city, show the community, show the business owners, and give them some ideas of how their businesses could be improved with some simple design improvement, or simple facade improvements. So we ended up with several examples. This one was pretty huge. This was probably the most expensive one. And I don't have to tell you the whole history, but basically I just brought you some examples of a lot of money spent, a little money spent, and a very little money spent. And we were fortunate at the same time we were doing this, we also became a certified local government. We have a really big historic property resource in our town. Quite a few properties on National Historic Register. So we were able to help these particular properties with some grant money, and it was a matching grant money, so they all put their own money into it as well. So this was sort of the middle of the road project where he paid to have his bricks cleaned off. We have an all brick block, as many of our communities do, but this one building, which was the old post office, was made out of Willamina brick, which is white brick versus our Dayton red brick. So he cleaned it off, and it stands proudly as it's one white building in the block. It's pretty cool. And then with just not so much effort and money involved, they painted, redid some windows, repaired some of the bulkhead that was rotting, and were able to tidy up their facade as well. The transom windows, as in many old buildings, was a unifying feature all the way down the block. So they had theirs still in place. They'd been painted, so they just painted them gray again so that they would at least stand out. A little too labor intensive to get them cleaned off, I think. In any case, this was a really great first project, and I think we benefited from it in a lot of ways, but one of the main ways was just it was visible. The whole community saw something was happening and wanted to know more about it. The result of these three projects having some financial assistance was that 3 other buildings took it upon themselves to improve themselves. So US Bank painted their place, another tavern turned into a nice restaurant, and they completely redid their facade, and on and on. And so the snowball effect is amazing, amazing. So we had committees when we started. We had the four committees that follow the 4-point approach for Main Street. We found it difficult to staff all those committees or populate those committees because we have, like any small town, the same 10 or 15 people that do everything. So now we still have committees, but they're based around a particular project, and we just make sure that our projects follow our 4-point approach. So some other design projects, pretty inexpensive and easy to do. We have a dedicated couple in town who just took it upon themselves to do a highway cleanup. So we get people involved helping with the highway cleanup, which is good and great that they did that. We put some murals up. We did that with the help of a Yamhill County Cultural Coalition Arts Assistance Grant. And so that we put a wall up to hide a burned out area, a building that had burned, and hung up these mural panels that sort of tell a Dayton story as well. We had artists donate, wineries donate the barrels, artists donate their time, and the nurseries in the area donated plants. So those barrels cost us nothing, but they're all over downtown now. So that's our art barrel project. And then with the help of an Oregon Heritage Grant and city funds and DCDA funds, we had a new historic marker put in our park, which is also on the National Register. So all those things just pretty easy to do with help from different funding sources out there. And Dayton Friday Nights is something that we talk about a lot. It sounds huge. It's actually not that big a deal. We just decided we wanted to populate our park at least one night a week so that the businesses could benefit from a lot of people downtown. And so we started out having a party in the park every Friday night all summer long. And it has turned into a really great community social event. We don't charge vendors to come. We let them come, and we try and focus on handcrafted and local businesses to come, and that evolves each year. But we also, we have bands that come in and play, and kids activities that we put together. But for us, it's kind of on autopilot now, which is really nice. Our committee doesn't have to meet a whole lot. It sort of runs itself, and we try and keep our efforts to a minimum. And the city liked what we were doing, so they partnered with us. So they put a fair amount of their festival budget into this particular event to pay for the bands. And so we've had real success with that. It's made a huge buzz through the community, and we get more and more comments about people just enjoying the fact that they can come downtown and hang out with their neighbors. And so we haven't made it about fundraising, we've made it about the community, and that was really important to us. But as a result of it, we have people coming up and handing us money to help pay for it. So we end up with sponsorships from community members and businesses, and even some bigger community businesses. It's been kind of nice. So inadvertently, we've gotten some funding from it as well. So another promotion project is our Artscape project. Here again, fairly minimal cost. We've had local artists paint paintings that we auctioned off. We also turned the paintings into vinyl banners that hung up on light poles. And we had an auction, raised funds from the sale of those things. And it was well received. We've got somebody working on that again for this year. Hopefully that'll be successful as well. And we had a couple small things. Hearts of Dayton, it's just, think Children's Miracle Network. We just had all our businesses ask patrons to purchase a heart, and they hang them up in their businesses through the month of January 15th to February 15th. And all of it was just to raise money for our Friday nights program. And then we added a chocolate crawl on the end of that. And I think this next year we'll probably not do so much with the Hearts project, but make the chocolate crawl bigger and advertise it more and bring more people into downtown, which we had a really great sunny day this year. It was nice. Next year, maybe not. Who knows? Okay. I guess a couple of quick projects that we did with some of the other of the. One was a map that we created. We went and talked to all of the businesses in our 97114 zip code. The purpose of the map was to, first of all, educate people in downtown Dayton about where the rest of the businesses in our zip code were, and vice versa. So that was real popular. It was easy to do. The businesses paid some money to be in it, even though we included everybody. Some of them paid a little extra to sponsor it. And then public meetings, and we had an appreciation event this year for our community sponsors as well as all of our volunteers. Anyway, just the results of the small efforts and the small amount of money and a lot of work from people, new businesses that were also new private investment that was made because of the buzz that's around downtown now. And one of our biggest projects, probably the first new building to be built in downtown Dayton in about 50 years, went in this last year, and so we're pretty proud of that as well. Anyway, it's small things that have resulted in new jobs, new businesses, and we're pretty proud of our little town. Thank you.
So it would be helpful to me if you are in a Main Street community, would you raise your hand? I'd like to get a sense of how many Main Street participants we have out here. So I'm gonna talk about the very fundamentals of making a Main Street program happen in a community. I'm not gonna talk about projects so much, that's why I don't have a slideshow. When we started out, our downtown was dead. We had been one of those main streets where everybody went out to the Fred Meyer Mall, the Safeway Mall, and the businesses were, the buildings were empty. And then as that occurred, the city council made what I consider to be a serious error. They decided to put energy, serious energy, into trying to get those buildings backfilled with offices. So our retail presence had declined for years. And the office mix, they got a few attorneys, a few accountants, but it didn't create a vital downtown, and it left a lot of vacancies. So when we started, about the same time Sheri started, just like Dayton started, we had 14 vacancies on Main Street in downtown. That's in a 9-block area. It looked like many Main Streets that you're familiar with. It was shell-shocked. So we decided, of course, that our first effort was to try and figure out how we could bring downtown back. And we right from the beginning, a little more history, the Chamber of Commerce decided they wanted to do something about downtown. And so they did a task force, created a task force to do national research on how people have downtown resurgence, and they came across the Main Street program, and they decided that the Main Street program was the right model. So the Chamber of Commerce task force created the desire for a Main Street program, and they further decided that it would be inappropriate for the chamber to run it, that it ought to be a freestanding operation. I heard about it at the time. I was retired, and I came on as a volunteer to help put it together. I'm going to come back to that very point. One of the very first things we did is we checked found out there was an Oregon Main Street. We got a hold of Sheri Stuart, and Sheri had just started on the job not long before that, but had extensive experience with Main Street programs. And we invited Sheri to come to town. We created a crowd. We talked to everybody we knew, and we had no formal agenda except to have Sheri make a presentation about what Main Street could do for your community. And I'll tell you, if you're thinking about starting a Main Street, start that way. Sheri is amazing. Her presentations really excite people. So it worked, and we had a large crowd together at George Fox University. We had a large crowd, and we had a lot of people there that indicated they wanted to stay the course. We didn't try and create any structure at a meeting like that. We just created the interest. And we allowed the people as follow-up to create the projects that they were interested in. Tom Tesmer was really interested in how dirty the downtown was. I mean, the cigarette butts and the candy wrappers and the weeds were just all over. So he started out, and we got 36 people the first time we ever did it to do a downtown cleanup. And that was Tom's. And the merchants suggested to Tom that he have it just before the tourist season, so we decided to have it the Saturday before Memorial Day. Now we have one every Saturday before Memorial Day. It's continued on. It doesn't have a committee. It just is the happening. We do some structure around it so that we can get notices out and so that we can raise a little bit of money to buy bark dust or something, but there's no real committee. Tom received, after that was done, we went down to the hardware store and got some gold spray paint, the sparkly gold spray paint. We painted a broom, and we gave it to Tom as his award, the Golden Broom for the cleanup. And that we stumbled across that idea of awards, but recognition of awards is important. Now, as we were looking at getting going, we felt that we did need some structure. So like Dayton, we started out following the National Main Street model of creating 4 committees. And they're the Economic Revitalization Committee, the Organization Committee, the Promotion Committee, and whatever the 4th committee was. That lasted for a while, and then we found out that was a good way to think about projects. The excellent Main Street program is an excellent concept about the things you ought to be thinking about, but what we recognized that it needed to be more organic, and so we just started creating task forces. Now, we did get organized, but generally our task forces don't keep minutes, they don't have agendas, they meet to discuss what it is that they're about. So we have a trick-or-treat street task force. We have a farmers market task force. We have various task forces, our planner program, various task forces that work. So what I'm suggesting to you is that this organic idea that Becky was talking about really works. Now there's some model from National Main Street that really works as well, and I would commend you if you're thinking about starting a Main Street program. You've met with Sheri. Sheri will hook you up with a National Main Street website, and the National Main Street website has a document called the Main Street Approach, and I would advise you to take a look at that as guidance about how you go about creating your organic efforts. Now we in Newberg feel pretty good about what we're accomplishing, but we recognize that we've still got to take 1 million more small steps. That's another thing that we discovered early on, was that we needed to start out with small steps. We didn't have any money, we didn't have a real structure, but we had Tom wanting to do cleanup, and we had somebody else wanting to make sure we had a good farmer's market. And so over time we've developed, and unfortunately, we developed a little more structure than I think we should have. And actually, as a result of this conference, I'm probably going to go back and see if I can undo some of our structure. But the idea that it be organic, that you get the people together. Now, here's what we've discovered. I had a meeting yesterday with one of our merchants who wants to do holiday season, and actually she's decided that she wants to do it year-round lighting. And what she wants to do is she wants to put globe lights like this, solar-powered, on the ridge lines of all the buildings, so that not the trees, not the windows, but the ridge lines of all the buildings. So Robin, yesterday, started the project. There's no committee, there's no organization. Now Robin will call on me, and we'll get her a group of people, and she'll do her own recruiting. She'll get 30 or 40 people involved in the Ridgeline Lighting Program, and a year from now we'll have a great program. It's not something that we've sat down with the board and decided that we're going to make a list. By the way, our board meetings are not, the board of the Newberg Downtown Coalition does not make decisions. We don't take an agenda to the board and say, okay, we need you to give us an answer on this. We don't operate like a city council. Oh, you've got to pass this resolution and have all this language. The board is more of a brainstorming program where they get together. It's a fixed number of members on the board, but they get together monthly and they talk about what's up and they talk about what's not up. Again, staying organic. So my counsel to you is, if you're interested in forming a Main Street program, which I highly recommend for any size community, is that you follow Becky's guidance and you keep it organic, you keep it around groups, and here's to me the most important key. There will be people in your community that have ideas, and some of those ideas you are going to think are dumb. But if they're willing to put the energy into making that idea happen, cut them loose and provide them support. What my office does is primarily provide logistical support. We got a lot of software we've got and all that sort of thing to run Oregon Main Street programs and keep track of our finances and that kind of thing. But I have one half-time person and myself. The 1.5 of us are there to provide support to the residents. And the other thing that I would emphasize is, don't think a Main Street program is about the businesses or the building owners. A good 60, 70% of the people that participate in our activities aren't either. They're residents of the community that want to take pride in their downtown. And please remember that. Too many Main Street programs start out, and we've seen predecessors to Main Street programs called business associations or downtown merchants associations, and they've kept their membership intentionally, by design, too tight. They've not reached out to the community. Most of our really energized, vital volunteers are neither a merchant or too busy. I mean, they can give us some time, but they can't give us the same amount of time as a retiree. So most of our really vital volunteers are residents of the community that want to see this happen. And then finally, remember to do something that's always difficult for me, but as you're forming your organization, pat yourself on the back, pat your organization on the back, promote what you're doing. Get the word out. So the way you start a Main Street organization is get a few of you in your community together to decide that you're going to do it. You have to develop some boundaries to do a Main Street program right, because you want the tightness of the cohesiveness, and particularly some boundaries, I think, around some properties that need to be revitalized. And then invite the community to come help you make that a wonderful place. Those are my suggestions today. If you're going to start a Main Street program, be sure you touch bases with Sheri, and good luck.
Excellent. Hello there. I'm Shawn Irvine. As Sheri said, I'm actually a city guy. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Independence. I'm also a board member for the Independence Downtown Association. It's a good fit. My title sounds fancy, but really it's a small town. I do parks development, I do volunteer coordination, I do everything under the sun, just like everybody else in a small town. But we really package that in the context of economic development, because it really all does relate. I want to make a quick sidebar. You've heard a lot of great stuff about small town economic development. One thing I would note is, a lot of these things take more or less effort to start. Something that's very simple, especially if you're a city person, that you can do is designate one person to be the business guide within the city. Somebody who can pick up the phone and answer the calls, and who knows the building official, and who knows the planner, and who knows the fire person, person, and just to be that person that Brad talked about where, hey, I need to do this, and Tom talked about it too. I need to do this. Who do I need to talk to? Where's my application at? What's the deal? And just somebody who can help shepherd things along and answer questions. It is an invaluable thing. It takes minimal effort, and it is really, really important for businesses. So I'm going to try to focus mostly on what IDA does, but I really want to make sure you realize this in the context of it's been a partnership with the city. The city has been working for about 20 years to revitalize the downtown and the community as a whole, really through an overall community planning effort, getting the community engaged in action planning and implementation. So a lot of the things that happen in the downtown are the result of larger citywide plans and city involvement. So, the first thing I'll kind of talk about is, cities are good at building infrastructure. We're great at building things. Water pipes, sewer pipes, parks, amphitheaters, downtown streetscapes. Independence was kind of an early adopter, I think, in a lot of these tools. But they're just things, and without people in them, they really don't make a difference. So that's really, I think, where downtown associations come in. Downtown associations, I really think, bring the infrastructure to life, and that's a great role for community organizations. The events, the activities, the networking, all of that is really what activates the infrastructure. I want to just kind of our philosophy in Independence, and it's really just kind of this attitude that we have both in the city and in IDA is, get everybody involved, generate buzz, generate excitement. Some cool ideas are going to pop up, jump on them quick, and leverage it like hell. That's a term I really like to use, leverage. Business people understand it. It means taking something that you already have and doing more with it. And we really try to do that with our events, with our activities, with everything we do. You shouldn't just think, hey, we did this, that's awesome. You should think, hey, we've done this. How can we turn this into something even better, something even greater, something even more? That's really, I think, especially in a small community where you have limited resources, that's the way you have to do it. You have to build off of your successes. So first example, banners and flowers. Who here has banners and flowers in their downtown? I'm betting pretty much everybody. It's a pretty common thing. And so I want to use this as an example of kind of our philosophy in action here. So yeah, we've got banners. We've got a local art gallery that painted every single one of our banners. We've got completely unique banners. They're beautiful works of art, and they're hanging on all of our downtown streetlights. We recently had commissioned them to do about 8 or 10 more. We won an All-America City Award, and so we wanted to do some special banners to recognize that. And so in addition to having the artists do that, we had a parade to celebrate when they went up. We got the local high school marching band to go up and down Main Street, blowing their horns and playing music. The mayor led it. It was a pouring, rainy, nasty day, but still we had probably 30 people show up. It started and ended at the farmers market, so it was more customers for the farmers market. And it was just this great little community event. And again, it just kind of helps create that little buzz, that interest downtown. So Parade of Lights, this is something that's been going on for a while in Independence. It's a lot of places have these Parade of Lights where you decorate your cars with lights and go down. It's always the first weekend in December, so it's usually pouring down rain. But tons of people come out to watch the parade. A few years ago, somebody came to our meeting and said, "Hey, I'm an engineer with Portland Western Railroad. I want to bring Santa to town on a train." We said, "That sounds like a cool idea. Let's do that." And so Santa comes to town now on the train in Independence. The first year he came up from the south, which was an error. The next year, so the next year the railroad made because that's of course where the rail yard was. So the next year they made sure to get the train situated so Santa came down from the north. But it's this great. It's a partnership with the Elks Lodge. They organized the Santa train. We partnered with Toys for Tots. We had 1,000 kids show up for the Santa train to sit on Santa's lap and get a little gift and get a picture with Santa. And it's a great community event because for a lot of these families, especially, a lot of them are low income. We're a pretty blue collar, low income community. For a lot of them, this is kind of the family portrait. This is sort of that annual, great get dressed up and go get a picture of the family kind of an experience. And so it's just a great community event. It's a great community togetherness one. Then of course, so we've got the Santa train in the day. You've got the parade in the evening after it gets dark. And then we said, okay, well, what else can we do with this? Let's have a storefront decoration contest. Let's have the various downtown business owners decorate their storefronts for the holidays, and then we'll declare a winner at the end of the parade. That's just a great, it's easy. This is something that folks want to do. And then we had a big community party at the end. There was a space downtown, this big salon training area. They opened it up, and we all went there and had, cider and cookies, and Santa showed up again to, take more pictures. And it was just this great kind of downtown community activity because, you've got this parade and it ends downtown, and then what? Okay, well, let's do something to keep people around a little bit longer, and that's what this event really did. We do a lot of events, a lot of things with IDA. With the amphitheater that the city built, actually that's not my right slide. Anyway, so the amphitheater is in our downtown riverfront park. We really are working to leverage that. The Downtown Association has actually partnered with our neighboring city of Monmouth to do a trick-or-treat downtown. The libraries, you go to the library, you decorate your candy bag with the kids, and then you go to the various downtown businesses for trick-or-treating. Just a great community event. Which is, you've heard me say that several times now, great community event. A lot of us in this, to what some of the other people said, you can get focused on the business side of things. We're bringing customers downtown. We're trying to get the businesses engaged. We're trying to get people into the businesses. There really is another aspect, which is creating a sense of community, creating opportunities for neighbors to bump into neighbors, for friends to bump into friends, for people who don't know each other to bump into each other and become friends. Especially the way things are today, people aren't talking to each other. These are events and activities to bring people into proximity where maybe they will talk to each other. Maybe they won't, but at least they have the opportunity, and you get these great, that is, when you think about those events that you go to and just go, wow, this is really cool. It's usually less about the business and more about all the people that are there and that sense of community, that sense of belonging that you get from being at a cool community event. So, we did Art in the Park every first Wednesday of every month in the summertime. We just went out into the park in the downtown. We did giant bubble blowing. We did origami lessons. We did Zumba for kids. Just to kind of, hey, parents, bring your kids down here. And we did it over the lunch hour so that they would come down here, have fun, and then go eat in the restaurants downtown. There's just a million different ways that you can take small things and create a larger kind of community narrative. The city, or I'm trying to remember what my next thing is. Okay, I will continue because I'm probably running out of time anyways. IDA does a lot of, we've done some business fairs. We've done a home-based business fair. That was kind of an interesting idea, was to target home-based businesses who may eventually want to move into larger, in actual bricks and mortar space. Somebody mentioned networking earlier. I was at a downtown association meeting, and one of the downtown folks said, "Hey, if you know anybody who's looking for office space, I just moved out. I knew he was retiring. Didn't even occur to me that his space was going to be available. I've been trying to find a space for an environmental lab for about 3 months, and couldn't find anywhere because, unfortunately, we have great occupancy at the moment. And so I hooked him up with this guy, and now his space is filled. So it's this great opportunity. When I talk about activating the infrastructure, that's really what I'm talking about. Is IDA can really do a lot of what I call the squishy stuff, getting people downtown, the programs, the events, the activities, and that builds the buzz, it builds the narrative. And for an economic development person like me, I'm basically a salesman. I'm going out and selling our community. I'm talking to the existing businesses, selling why they need to stay here, the folks who are looking here, why they need to be here. And to have these stories of these great community activities, these great community events, these successful businesses, that all adds to a larger narrative of a vibrant rural community. And the more you talk about it, the more it becomes true. So our amphitheater, we started a summer series 10 years ago with an average of about 250 people. Even 5 years ago, it was probably averaging about 250 people. Now we have free Thursday night concerts and Friday night movies in July and August. The movies draw 2,000 people. Concerts, we drew 3,000 people for a Def Leppard cover band. It was awesome. It's a beer garden and the food trucks, the whole 9 yards. It's a happening, and that's kind of where it takes you, as you get that buzz and you build. One of our long-term vacant buildings downtown, one of the key buildings downtown, it finally turned over. Okay, I'll tell a quick story. This is creativity. It's usual, building owner wanted too much money. They were asking $600,000 for a building that needed major work. The realtor kept saying, hey, they would take 300, but when it's listed for 600, nobody's going to offer 300. So the city found a straw man and offered 300 for a purchase option. And the guy, said, I don't want to do a purchase option, but I'll give you, 90 days due diligence and you can buy it at 325. So we said, oh, hey, this is real. So we called up a guy that we knew had made a couple of runs at the building unsuccessfully in years past and said, hey, looks like this is really legit. You can get it for pretty cheap. Well, you want to make a run at it? And he did. And then we found him some facade grants. We found him some diamonds in the rough grant with the state and worked with him to really be able to restore that building to its original historic look. That's the one with the tower there on the corner. The amphitheater has become this great event space. The National Psoriasis Foundation is going to come to town and do an annual fundraising ride based out of Independence in Polk County. They want it to become an annual thing. We've been getting involved in bicycle tourism, agritourism, those types of things, and this was a direct result of that. We've got residential happening downtown. The upper floor of that tower building is residential. We've got some condos that are going in downtown, and we've got a hotel coming to town now. When I talk about building that narrative, 5 years ago, I could have talked to a million different hotel developers and they all would have just laughed at me. But now I can say, look at this. We've got these wineries, we've got a university in the area, we've got all this activity downtown, we've got this riverfront that's being developed. There's all these things to do. It makes sense. And they go, yeah, it does. And the city, of course, got involved and had to do a lot of work with incentives and other things. But fundamentally, if the business case isn't there, it's not going to happen. And the Downtown Association really helped with that narrative, with that story. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it because I'm probably over time. But I think we probably have time for questions.
Thanks, you all. Again, you always amaze me and impress me with the work and activity that you do. And it's just a sampling of what's happening across Oregon in our small communities that are using the Main Street approach. I'd also like to say that our communities are reflecting what is happening as a national movement. Initially, when the Main Street approach was started, it was started really process-oriented, learning the Main Street approach, the 4-point approach, which they mentioned, organization, design, economic vitality and promotion, and really kind of getting that structure in place, and then attracting committees, and then developing the project ideas, but engaging with stakeholders and partners and community members across. The National Main Street Center went through a refresh and is still using that structure, but using it in a more flexible mode, which is reflective of how our communities already are implementing the Main Street approach, is really looking at those elements and doing activities in each of those, but using the structure in a more flexible and fluid way to meet the needs and the resources and the interests and the talents of communities. So I think you all are kind of like on the lead edge of what's now happening nationally with the 4-point refresh. So we really appreciate the efforts that you put in. I know we're running out of time. We were going to ask each of the panelists some questions, but instead I'll just see if anybody has a question for the panelists before we wrap up. Any questions out there? I know they did such an awesome job, you guys. They left no questions on the table. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them one more round of applause. And as they are going back to their seats, if I could get Krista and Sarah to come up here for a moment. And as if you could both come up front. They don't like this, but too bad, so sad. So a conference like this happens not by chance, but on purpose. Just like much of the work that happens in your small communities. And part of what we do is celebrate the successes. I'm extremely fortunate to be surrounded by people who just exemplify success all the time. And in particular for this event, these two ladies, Krista Ohm and Sarah Cavazos, so extremely hard and long hours and pulled together the team. They didn't do it alone. There is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the day, they worked with a great team and helped bring all these together. But I just wanted to pull them out because I appreciate them both so very much. So Sarah, Krista, thank you so very much. So thank you to all of our speakers today, and I've been challenged with doing a quick recap of today, but I want to point out a couple of things. Rare was mentioned earlier today. There were a few speakers who talked about them having Rare members in their organizations. We have the great fortune of having two Rare members. We have Mark and we have Michelle, who we share with SEDCOR and the Council of Governments on projects. And they're doing just amazing things for a very small amount of money. Earlier today, I talked with Titus, who is here with the Rare program, and he mentioned to me that, oh, there he is back there. So he's back there, so if you want to hear more about it, there is secured funding. We are like 95% sure, 99% sure that there's secured funding for at least one more year. And the Ford family has grants for small communities that can offset the cost even further. So it's about $23,500 for a full-time staff person, member to be in your office working on projects such as we've been talking about today. However, the Ford Family Foundation is willing to and able to provide grants for $10,000 for that cause. So that would take that cost down for your community down to $13,500. What a deal, right? And you get quality people, and it's not just given to you. You get to interview and get to be part of the selection. So it's a great resource. Actually, Sarah Cavazos started in our office about 11 years ago as a AmeriCorps member. So they come back after they've had a lot of experience. So just a little bit of a plug there. Also, evaluations. Please share us with your comments. Let us know what you thought of today. It will help inform us. And I'm doing a little switcheroo. I've got the thumbs up that I can do this. Instead of taking a ticket and figuring out if you're a winner or not, you're going to practice what we've been talking about. So if you're at a table with two or more, you can either split the goods, negotiate the goods, or give away the goods, okay? So, but we want all of those plants to go back into your communities, into your homes, so please help us in getting rid of that. So throughout the day, I've been just listening and trying to come up with little snapshots of what has been said, what nuggets that we can walk away with. And I wish I was a speed talker or speed reader, but I'm not, so I'll try to get through this really, really quickly. So beginning the day, Becky talked to us about innovation. I heard her say small businesses have a future. Lines on the map are no longer defining rural communities and economies. Stay open to new ideas, take small but meaningful steps. Tiny business village. My eyes got all excited about that one, and I wrote cool next to it. So in small projects, big impacts, Nicole said, host a party. What better thing than that? Promote another business through pop-ups, serve as a catalyst, engage others. Jamie encouraged us to visualize, partner, and take action to transform from so-so to let's go. Remember, those were the alleyways, so let's go and have some good space. And then Jasmine talked about pop-up and small businesses and how they can benefit small business-friendly advocates that inspire others to build strong foundations. And then there was Tom. He's been kind of poked at all day. He's not here. Tom talked to us about looking for wins, not just for you, but for your small businesses, so that we can grow businesses rather than just making check marks into planning systems and procedures. We need to shift our focus to create a thriving community and identify what needs to be changed. Make the path to success, not a regulatory requirement. And then live-work industrial conversations are needed. We need to figure out how we begin outside of the box. Really encourage you to be doing that. And then Becky rejoined the conversation about job creation. Innovation happens when people are connected, network, talk, increase connections, create co-working space, and make things happen. Business retention and expansion. I know that's happening in a lot of communities. It happens in small spaces, it happens in larger spaces. But we heard build on what is successful, be responsive to needs, and find ways to enhance, build on the local voice, focus on tenacity and perseverance when changing your economic future. Don't get tired. Basically, that's what that means. And just to remember that 80% of the job creation is inspired through existing businesses. Innovation is fabulous, but we also need to support the things that are already happening in our community. And when we're looking at from community up funding, we heard OEN talk about fund access and things that entrepreneurs need to include venture capital, Hatch Innovation. This was exciting to me. Like I said earlier, my kids talk about this all the time. I have one son, I swear, he invests in things all over the place. I tease him often that he's supporting foreign countries because I have things come to my house all day long. Community public offerings, investing in real places, in real people, and in enterprises that are close to your home. And Brad talked to us about taking economic gardening to your downtowns, reduce barriers and increase successes for small businesses. The afternoon was wrapped up with Becky sharing about the crowd, and I heard a huge cheer when she said, "Don't over-organize," right? We have a tendency to try to get organized before we move forward. Sometimes we just need to jump in the pond. Find the people that can help you move forward, change the climate in your community, and send messages that illustrate the type of town you want to be. I thought that was really inspiring. Always, what you think about, you bring about. So be thinking and encouraging yourself and your community members to be thinking about where you want to be in the future. Don't reinvent the wheel is what I heard from Main Street. Build on your successes and assets, whether it's Main Street, Vision to Action, or some other program. Find what matters to your community and take action. Create opportunities for your neighbors to bump into its neighbors. Lots and lots of things have been talked about today. I've learned a lot already here. It's going to be causing me to be thinking for days about ways that we can do a better job from the county level to work with you, helping to remove barriers. We want to inspire change. We want to be inspired by the change that you all are having and taking into your own communities. So I'll just close on two small quotes that I think help, for me, wrap up the day. The foundation of economic development is the acquisition of more productive knowledge. I hope today you leave with more productive knowledge about where you could go, where you might go, where you want to go, and that it will spur change in your community. And then lastly, this is probably the most reverberating message I heard today, is the ultimate resource in economic development is people. We make a difference. Your community members make a difference. And we've just got to figure out how we do things in a way that makes things happen in our community, that really capitalizes on the energy and in the talents and the technologies that are existing in today's world. So who are the people that you could engage, people that you should engage, and the people that must be engaged? So I'll close with just a last thank you for joining me in just a really fabulous day. I appreciate your time, staying here till the end of the day, and we just hope that as we move forward together, because this isn't a journey that we need to do alone, that we are looking onto the website, we're looking for opportunities to connect. I do know that CCTV will be editing these videos. We'll be putting them onto our website. Once that's available, we'll be sending emails out to everybody so you can share the message with your community members. Thank you for being here. Drive safe. Be well.